Hey everybody, it's Eric Hayden. I apologize for not doing some videos the last couple days. I'm not in North Carolina right now. I'm actually in Maryland helping out my mom. She had some knee surgery, so I'm up here. While I help her, I'm going to work a little bit in the rose garden. This is my parents' rose garden. At one point when I was a teenager, over 275 rose bushes, mainly hybrid teas, some mini roses, and also mini floras. The point of this video, though, is to quickly show you something that I installed for them a couple years ago that helped out with a deer problem. That was one of their biggest issues, keeping up with the weeds and spraying. Yes, that's a never-ending task, but you would do all that work and then deer would mow things down. So I want to quickly show you what I did for them, show you that it can be quite effective. I did this about 2 or 3 years ago and they haven't had any issues at all. I do want to show you quickly, I apologize for some of the weeds. Again, they're having surgery. They've got bigger fish to fry. So those weeds I'm going to hopefully take care of while I'm up here. But nice bloom on Louise Estes. I mentioned I've got some maidens of that. Of course, that's an old classic Double Delight. One rose I hope to get in my garden and take a cutting of it. This is Suffolk. It's an older rose, but I know John Smith just recently won with that in a local show up here. And then speaking of John Smith, some gorgeous Randy Scotts. And you can tell we've had a lot of rain here. This is the kind of rain that we wish we had up in North Carolina. That bush there needs to be deadheaded, but if you want a good garden rose, that's a florist rose, that is Hot Princess. I've got to deadhead that, but look how tall that thing is. This is 7-foot stakes, but they're pounded down, but that's, you know, probably 4 or 5 feet tall. And again, my dad doesn't get around as well as he used to be able to, so he's growing those blooms in his garden. And another one that just pops out, this is beaten down by the rain, but Moonstone. Just some beautiful blooms here in the garden. The point of this video is not blooms, it is fencing. So my parents had a terrible time with deer. Again, they would come in the garden and just mow the place down. Very discouraging when you're doing that work. So I want to show you what I installed for them. Comment below, what have you done? When I had a deer issue in my yard up in New York, I did everything. I started with the fishing line, that worked a little bit. I did the spray, I did the human hair. All of those things had mixed results. Over time, they did not work. Again, maybe initially they did, but the thing that I have found that has been most effective is this. Some type of permanent structure. Granted, if you're in the front yard, maybe you might not be able to do that as easily as they can in the backyard. But what I got them were 6-foot stakes. These are your standard green stakes, metal poles that you can get at any local hardware store. Pounded those in, and this is pretty heavy dude gauge wire fencing. It's 7 feet tall. Once I pound it down, it's probably just a little bit over 6 feet tall. And you might say, well, Eric, deer can jump that. They certainly can. They could get in here if they wanted to, but why would they when there's a barrier like this? They'll just move on to the next one. This just caught my eye here. I apologize. Sunny Sundays. What a bloom. The name actually came from my dad, but John Smith hybridized this. It's just a gorgeous bloom. Anyway, sorry about that. There's Jewel Grace. I'm always distracted by the blooms. And speaking of distraction, check out this one. This is European Touch. This is the sport of Folklore. Folklore is an orange rose. This sported to an apricot rose. Beautiful form. It grows quite tall, especially into the fall. It can get 7, 8, 9 feet tall. It's a, I think Folklore is Corda's rose, so disease resistance is good, growth habit is good too. But I mean, just look at these blooms. Sorry for the distraction. Back to the fencing again. You're going to spend some money on this fencing. There's certainly netting varieties that you could get. I've tried those; they just don't hold up as long. This is one of those things you get what you pay for. Go ahead and get the metal fencing. Again, it comes in big rolls. It's 7 feet high. Once you put these green poles in the ground and you pound it down, it might just be a little bit over 6. Back to my point about the deer, if they wanted to, they could jump over this. However, it is a barrier, and in the 3 years that I've had it installed for them, they have not. Why jump over a fence when you can just move on to something else to mow down? So highly recommend spend the extra money on the wire gauge fencing. Get yourself some strong green poles. Again, I think they run in 6 or 7 foot lengths. I think it might be 7 foot now that I think about it, because you pound it into the ground and this is above my head level. So get some sturdy stakes, and pretty easy install. They have these little tabs that you can tuck them in. And then some reinforcements. I did some of this conduit piping, and you can put some some of these zip ties on it. So sometimes it doesn't match up perfectly with these little lips. Just use yourself some zip ties. Again, highly recommend. Hopefully I get this guarded weeded for them and they'll be back in good shape. But one thing they don't have to worry about is the anything about deer. Now, if you want to make a fancy fence, knock yourself out. I did not do that. All I've ever done is had a little overlap of fencing, put it on a conduit pipe. They sell these in 6-foot sections at the hardware store. I use this a lot. So have some extra fencing, you know, so you go around the fence in a circle, you stop on your last pole, permanently attach it to that green pole, and then this overlap goes on the conduit pipe. And then just have a little piece of rebar down in the ground. And then when you want to close your fence, you just lift this up and over, and you actually put the utility or the conduit pipe. It's hard to do it with one hand, but let me see if I can do it. There you go. You just stick that over the conduit the rebar sticking up. So there's your quick, dirty fence. It doesn't look super pretty, but it closes. So that's it for today. Comment below, what do you do about deer? I know it's a big issue. If you've got a backyard garden, highly consider one of these fences.